G'day YouTube folks, it's DIY Guy 123 here. Today we're going to talk about how you install or how you raise the toilet flange so that your toilet won't leak between the toilet and the flange. And normally in my do-it-yourself videos I muddle through it and do some research and figure out how to do it on my own. But today I'm very fortunate to have a special guest with me today. He's a very experienced plumber and he's going to show us exactly how to do this job professionally, do it right the first time so that you don't have to revisit the problem. And really what he's going to show us is how you make up for someone who installed the flange in the first place incorrectly.
So what we got here is a problem where the flange is not resting on top of the floor, it's actually resting on the subfloor. So this is a brand new flange, an ABS style, and what we're going to do is make a spacer. You can buy spacers, but we're actually going to, the cheapest way is to get one of these for, what are they, 10 bucks?
$7.
7 or 8 bucks, 7 bucks, and we're going to take a grinder.
Where the spacer is 25.
The spacer's 25 bucks, yeah. So we're going to take a grinder and grind this ridge out here. So we're going to get rid of this, we're going to get rid of this, and then we'll have just a spacer. Okay, I'll show you how that's going. Okay, so here we are. We've made our new flange, and we ground down the vertical part of the flange and the beveled part. That's all gone. So we just basically have a thin disc now, and that's all required because when this was installed, as I mentioned earlier, the flange was resting on the subfloor, and then the tile, the grout, and then the tile or the mortar, and then the tile was set on top of that. So it's almost a ½ inch above the subfloor. And so we've got our new spacer. It'll be installed on top, and it won't even make this above there. This will come up above there, but it won't be like the flange is sitting on top of there. Is that all right? Yeah. Okay, so it's not mandatory that it's sitting right on top of the floor as long as it's protruding.
Level with the floor, just above it.
Level with the floor and just above it. Okay, so that's great. So we'll be in good shape there. So when I took the flange screws out to see if there was enough play in the flange to just raise it up without making a spacer, I had a hard time getting the screws out because, as you can see, the screws rusted, and even backing them out with a screwdriver, they didn't rise up out of the floor. So I had a bit of a job to get those out, and we're gonna replace those metal screws with brass screws. So plumbing code, right? So when I took the old toilet up, I had problems with the closet bolts turning in the flange, and a little tip I just learned from my professional buddy here. The flange has 2 spots, this one does anyway, 2 spots where you can put the closet bolts so they can slide in like this and be in this area, but the other option is they can, and of course I have the flange upside down right now, they can go in here. And the comment was that this area right here is a little bit more rigid than this area, so if you put torque on the bolts, this area has a potential to spread that open and let the bolt spin, whereas this area is not going to spread open. So just a little tip, if you have trouble with spinning bolts before and you go to put your flange down, you may want to rotate it 90 degrees to leverage these areas. So what we're doing right now, we're dismantling the wax ring right now just to get the wax from it.
Because it was a broken ring.
It was, yeah, that's right. The plastic part of the wax ring was broken, but we're really just looking for the wax itself. So taking it and making some putty out of it. Now, as far as the subfloor goes, do you want to check any of that beforehand, or?
Well, we could just shove something in there to see if it's still rigid.
Yeah, I did poke around a little bit and it seemed okay, but
we're going to be in different places. Hopefully that won't interfere.
Yes, okay. What's a good thing to clean the wax off your hands?
Well, I just use paper towel and just clean it off.
Or your buddy's shirt when he's not looking.
There, your buddy's shirt when he's not looking.
The dog.
Or their towel. You get the customer's towel right there. You can use
I
it.
tried to pry, after I get the bolts out, I tried to pry in that flange just a bit. I wasn't using a 4-foot bar or anything, but just to see if I could raise that up. Because if that pipe had gone down and then horizontal a long distance, there might be quite a bit of flex in it, right?
That's right. Exactly. And normally when you're doing construction or you're roughing it in, you ask what the finish is going to be on the floor, and if it's going to be tile, you know it's a good 1/4 inch or higher.
Right.
So you raise the flange, or you leave enough slack so it can be pulled up and the tiles will slide underneath.
Smart, yeah.
Or you get pieces of tile and you slide them under before you screw it down.
Right. So the fact that the plastic disc that came in the wax ring is gone doesn't matter, right? You're just gonna smear that wax out anyway.
Yeah,
Push
I'm
it
just
out.
going to push it down. Yeah. So normally we do it with 2 setting seals. You get just 2 wax setting seals.
Right.
The one that you had that was broke was called a can't leak seal.
Okay.
And it's good to clean the wax off here so you don't have anything to obstruct or hold toilet paper when it goes down.
Right. And you don't want to drop that down, right? I mean, wax won't break down in your
No,
system.
wax doesn't break down very good, so.
Okay. Scoop all that out of there.
Take that off and give it to the kids.
I'd give them the old stuff, the original wax.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Now I suppose that'll compress when you screw it down.
Yeah,
even
it'll
further.
compress even more. Yeah. It'll get down so that it's plastic to plastic.
All right.
Okay, now we just check the measurements to make sure the bolts are in the right spot. That's 12 inches, 12 1/4, so it has to turn a little bit.
And this really determines the orientation of your toilet, right?
Yeah, well, you do have some play in the toilet, but it just keeps the bolts in the middle because they have to go through the holes on the toilet itself. Natural roughing for a toilet is 12 inches from the finished wall.
Okay.
And what happens is they'll put 5/8 or 1/2 inch sheetrock on top, and
Oh yeah.
you lose that 1/2 inch. And on some toilets, because the toilets are just a piece of china, on some toilets you get good china and it conforms to all the standards, and some don't. The tank slides back too far.
Right. So that probably will line up with the flange below, right? Those 4 holes?
It'll go through it won't line up with those holes.
Oh no? Okay.
Probably not. Might, but.
I got the electric impact if you want that right beside you, Larry.
Oh, you do?
It's all ready to go.
Oh, well, we'll soon do that. Move into the world of automation. Oh,
I always kind of, bring it up tight with that, but then if I really want to crank it, I crank it by hand.
with screwdriver, exactly.
Yeah, you don't know how much torque those electric ones are going to apply,
that's
and
right.
it's a lot. They're a lot. So you're gonna have 6 screws holding it down, right?
6 screws. Yeah.
Just using.
The ones on either side of where the bolt goes are the
Yep.
important ones.
Right. Okay.
They're the ones that determine whether things are going to stay in place. Screwed down the flange.
Yep.
You'll see that you're going to get a watertight seal now because the plastic's coming out, or the seal's coming out.
The wax, yeah.
I always take my finger, cover the joint
Sure.
with the wax. That just gives it any screw. Or then we take our closet bolts and we slide them into the notches.
Yeah. So we're done with the drill, right? The
We're
drill
done
bits?
with the drill.
All right. Look at that. Just try to keep our work area as clean as we can.
When you put your new setting seal on,
Yeah.
you always give it a little turn to make sure you get good contact.
Okay.
And then again, I go underneath it, and if it's if the hole is smaller than the setting seal, I push it in and make a seal between the setting seal and the plastic.
Okay.
And just push it in.
Now that one didn't have any plastic.
No, the other ones, they're called can't leaks.
Can't leak. Okay.
Yeah, they're called a can't leak seal, and they're okay, but normally a plumber wouldn't use one.
Is that right? Okay.
One of the reasons would be the cost.
Will cost $1.97.
It costs, I know, the other ones are like 90 cents.
Oh.
I ever did kitchen sink on Pitt Street. You make sure the trap's dry, because once you start maneuvering the toilet around, that water can roll out through the bottom of the toilet.
Right. So we just pulled out as much as we could with a cup, and now we're gonna just really try and dry it. I mean, if you just leave the towel there, it'll wick the water away over the next minute or so.
You can do that too. Okay.
Right. You don't need to take the tank off of the bowl, right? I mean, I just tried to be lazy and not do that, but...
Tank's never
That's not being lazy. You normally wouldn't do it.
Okay. Right. Now, one other thing too is that line, the cold water line, is a hard line.
Yeah.
And there's no, like... We've now raised the toilet by a little bit, have we, or?
No, not really. No, it'll still sit down the floor.
Oh, well, okay. All right. So I've got that line, and if it bolts up nicely to the tank,
but
we're
I
good.
got an extra spot.
Well, I brought one too. Or I got one too.
I have one.
Yours is longer than
I
mine.
got two.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're still
I
talking
hear
about
that
these,
I
right?
hear that
Yeah, I
in
know,
the
I know.
locker room.
Still talking about the hoses here. Nothing else.
It's
So we took two of us here. We flipped the toilet over. We looked at the bottom horn on the bottom of the toilet, make sure it's all cleaned off. There was nothing on it, and the bolts were set in place in the flange already. We just set the toilet on top of that, on top of the flange, the wax ring, and the bolts. You know, can be done with one person, but two of us made it easy because the toilet probably weighed about 50 pounds or 40 pounds. So now we have these bolts protruding. I noticed that that one's not quite vertical, but it probably doesn't matter, eh?
Which one?
There. Oh, now it is, okay.
No, it is.
So, a little bit of play in them. So those are my original
Plastic
washers.
Yeah, these are what holds on the trim piece.
Yeah. Now that, one of them, not the one in your hand, this one, is melted because I had to use a grinder to grind the head off of the bolt because it was spinning in the flange, right?
It'll work.
There's two there, two.
Yeah, see, they're metal.
Yeah,
This one's brass,
yeah.
so use the brass.
Put the old brass ones back on rather than the new
Metal, yeah.
the new other ones, eh? Okay.
If they get wet, they rot off.
Well, they'd never get wet there, would they?
Well, you never know. You never
Depends
know.
on how good your aim is.
Depends on how many boys you have in the house.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So,
Yeah, you got this one.
so when you sat the toilet in place, you pressed it down and collapsed that waxing, right?
Yes.
And I didn't take notice, but how much did you have to collapse it before the toilet was flush with the floor?
Oh, you could tell. See, the weight of the toilet, because the wax was soft,
Yeah.
the weight of the toilet would collapse 90% of it.
Okay.
With just a slight rock
Yeah.
and push straight down. You don't twist it too much.
And what about the plumber's putty around the perimeter where the toilet meets the floor?
No, you never use that.
You don't use that?
For one, the main reason is you'd stop any water from the floor going under the toilet.
Yeah.
The second reason is if it was leaking underneath,
Yeah.
you'd never know
You'd never know till it rotted your floor.
until it rotted the floor out. So it's better off to leave that.
So you don't even put anything down there?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, I thought that you
The
did.
only time now, sometimes, like I say, this is a china cup. Same way they make a china cup. Sometimes this isn't level. The base of it isn't level.
Right.
And I've had occasions where it was so bad that once it set down, there'd be a gap at the back or
Yeah.
a gap at the front.
Yeah.
I'd take a shingle and I'd slide it in at the back
Yeah.
and cut it off flush
Mm-hmm.
just to take any movement out of it.
In my other house, had the same thing. After I had the tile installed, when I went to put the toilets back on, the fella should have used a straight edge to set the tiles,
Yeah.
and he didn't. And what happened was there was a crown, so one tile was like this, one tile was like this, and when you set the toilet down, it would rock.
Right.
And so I had to shim it. In fact, I didn't use wood. I used plastic yogurt container lid because I didn't want the plastic to, you know, the plastic wasn't going to break down.
Where's my little adjustable go? There it is.
This one?
You don't use large wrenches because large wrenches create lots of torque.
Lots of torque.
And if you use too large a wrench, what'll happen is you'll snap the toilet if you tighten it too tight. We're going to need a hacksaw, Steve.
Hacksaw or that cutter?
Hacksaw.
Okay.
Now that we have the toilet in place and you tighten the bolts down, you have to do it very gently. You tighten them down. You don't want to torque them too tight because, like I say, if you put too much tension on the porcelain, what'll happen is if you happen to get some warm water or once the cold water hits it for the first time, it'll snap. Or when you sit on it, it'll snap.
Right.
So I just take them and I tighten them down till I feel that there's a lot of resistance.
Yeah. And you're probably still compressing some of that wax, right?
Yeah, a little bit. And it's pulling up to some of the plastic.
Yeah.
So then the final check would be there's no rock in the bowl.
Right.
Everything's good. Now, in my own house, I would leave these bolts for a day or so, then put the wrench back on them just to check to
Just
see
an eighth of a turn maybe, or...
Yeah, just to check to make sure that it hasn't loosened up at all.
Okay.
Once you're satisfied with that, you take a hacksaw, cut the top of the bolt off so the flange fit over top.
Right, right on.
And
Yep.
snap on.
Okay.
And now we're all set. I've hooked up the supply again.
Okay.
Now we're going to deliver some water to the tank. Another common mistake with the shut-offs, with the little shut-offs that go to, is people will, when they open them, they turn them all the way and do this. Well, what that does is compresses the material that prevents a water seal, or makes a water seal.
Yeah.
So when you turn it off, you stop there, then turn it back quarter of a
So
turn.
you don't need to have it open you don't need to have it hard open.
No. There is a part where you get your coat and you get ready to leave, because if it's still leaking, you leave.
You run away really fast.
Okay, so there you have it. That's how you raise the toilet flange off of a subfloor so that your wax ring underneath your toilet seals properly and doesn't leak. I want to throw out a special shout out to my very good and very professional helper, Larry. Thank you for your assistance with this project. And like all my videos, I end with good luck with your do-it-yourself project. And if you like my videos, please subscribe. I'd love to share all of my hobbies and my activities with you. So if you subscribe, you'll be notified about every new video I post. Have a great day.